So hello and welcome to our SMS Lausanne meet and greet. We are very happy today to be joining by Donald Nader. He's actually in Zurich. We are at the Maison du Sport in Lausanne. Hi, Donald.
Hi, hello, everybody.
I'm very happy to have you today with us because we know each other since a long time, actually a pretty long time. We have both worked in the event organization industry, more especially in the action sport event organization. And for the funny story, I think we have met the first time when you were a sponsor manager at Swatch, and we were organizing a snowboard big year in London in Covent Garden. I'm not even going to mention the year because it's too long ago. And shortly after that, I was a sponsoring manager at Nescafé, and I became a sponsor at your event. So this is how we started, sponsor and event manager. So I'm really happy to have this conversation today with you, Donald, as we have the same path in event organization and action sport. Could you tell us a little bit, could you introduce yourself to our guest?
Well, yes, with pleasure. Like you mentioned, I've been in the event business or industry since many years. Thanks for pointing out how old I've become. But frankly, yes, we met 20, 25 years ago. And what shares our experience, or my experience with Valerie in the event business, is that we both know the business from both sides as organizers and as sponsors. And I think that's a great advantage, which we built up in the past. Ever since I've been engaged in staging events, 3-4 major events throughout the year, mainly in the sports business, in the winter sports. The Burton European Open, the Laax Open, I've been ever since it's been in Switzerland for, 15, 16 years. Laax Open is an ongoing project. But we also are involved with bike events, the National Bike Festival, which has been out there in Soleur, I think you say in French, since over 12 years. We've established the Urban Bike Festival. So events are my daily business, and it is also a little bit enriched by events in other fields, totally different fields, like we are also engaged for staging events for the electric car industry. So we work for Polestar, and that's like a totally different thing, but it's just as fun and it's just as future driven.
Thank you, Donald. The spotlight for us for SMS this spring, SMS in Lausanne this spring, is that we are launching events and sponsoring certification. Towards all our educational pillars, we'd like to bring people together, like expert professional together, and for sure for events organization, Donald will be one of them. Event organization, it's about the comprehension of the sport, the actors that are around the events. It's marketing and communication. It's a lot to do with organization and technical skills. But most of all, I think experience and sharing experience and having experience on the terrain is the most important thing. So I like to say that what we bring to our students is shortcuts. We are telling them about things we did, how we did them well and it worked, or sometimes how we didn't do the right choice and we should have done another way. So what I would like to know from you, Donald, it's towards this long experience, what are the best, the worst experience you had, maybe the most challenging, and what were the outcome, how you managed them?
Well, that's kind of hard to summarize to not make it too long, but basically, let me maybe say, I think, like you mentioned, doing the job on the job is the best thing you can build your experience and career with. So I think that accounts like for both you and me. If you put me or you in a branding team out there putting up banners, we know the deal. Yeah. You know, if you put us as an assistant in the TV production truck, we know the deal. If you have to jump in for the starter because he's out for COVID, you know the deal. Exactly. So I think that is there's very few roles in an event which you cannot take. I can't be a head judge. I can't be a TV director. There's some specialists which you cannot replace. But I would say in 80 or 90% of the cases, you've done the job on the job. And that's what qualifies you. That's point number one. The second thing is maybe, which I think is important, I'm a total fan of routines, standard procedures. Let's not discuss over and over again how to do this. Let's do it like we did it successfully last time and improve. But having the same routines going on, having the same people running those routines makes life easy. And then you have space and energy for troubleshooting if that needs to be possible. But if you are already struggling with the basics because you're not into the routines and you don't have the experience, then you do not have any space for handling real problems which may occur at any event anytime. In the event business, anything can happen anytime without notice. So that's something you can only keep under control if you have the stuff which can be organized really well organized. That's one of the things. So, you know, your biggest enemy in an outdoor event is still always the weather.
Yeah, the thing you cannot prepare, actually.
You can, everything you can prepare. If anything you can prepare, be aware that it can happen.
Yeah.
So we very often have like scenarios, plan A, plan B, plan C. You know, they sometimes make fun of me because at one event back in the days, that's maybe an anecdote, we went all the way down to plan G. Okay, there were so many options that we had to establish variable plans and then just pick one at the moment the decision was defining the next step.
Yeah, it's something I like to have too, and I like to teach to our students. It's really have the worst case scenario and think about everything that can go wrong. You may not have the solution for the problems that will happen, but having thought about all of this, for sure you will be prepared to make the right choice. When you have to do a very quick choice, sometimes it has to be quick, and this is what is helping.
And something I learned actually, not in the event business, but from a professor way back in the days who presented a study where they were looking at companies who showed or who came out with real innovation. There were all different kinds of companies. There were airline companies, there were food companies, there were companies making some metal pieces for the industry. So they identified all those companies who had a true innovation over the past 5 years. And they had a bunch of 20, 25 companies around the world. And then they looked at what do these companies have in common? And the main result was what these companies have in common is that they put the absolute highest effort on planning. Yeah. Planning. Those companies with the utmost planning have the highest rate of innovation success according to the study, which I heard, and that's kind of very applicable in our business. I mean, planning is
so
the biggest
something
part.
I also like to share with the people that are interested to work in this domain. It has a creative side and an organization and planning side. When you're good on both sides, it's cool because your daily business is very multiple and various. But you can also only be good in concept and only be good in planification. But both of those two aspects are very important in the event organization business.
And then while I was still at university in my younger ages, I had a part-time job in a concert and music agency. Okay, I was the do this, do that guy for everything. And I was a lot backstage. And I realized pretty soon that everything which happens on stage towards the crowd, which appeals to be like very spontaneous, like Mick Jagger takes off his t-shirts and throws it in the crowd, that's not spontaneous. That's in the fucking rundown. Excuse me. That's in to use the language of that business. That's in the rundown. Yeah. So once I understood that, I knew we need to be well prepared, so we can handle the not preparable.
Yeah. And it's normal that it's in a rundown because it has to be followed by light. It has to be be followed by a camera. So if the people involved don't know what is going to happen, then you don't have the spectacle as we like to have it. So maybe I can continue because it's a little bit something I experience, and I'm sure you have the same. When I talk about the event I have organized, I can see the people having star in their eyes and say, I absolutely want to work in this domain, and it's what I want to do. And I like to tell them, yeah, it's not only red carpet and bubbles, it's a lot of work. The event organization, it's a lot to do in preparation, as you said before, planning in an office, not especially outdoor on the mountain and so on. We're going to come after to the event you are organizing. And then it has to do with dealing of the event during the event, which is something totally different. So I would like to ask you, Donald, what is for you the best quality or abilities that a person should have to be happy in this domain? Because today we like to be happy in our jobs.
Or qualified, probably that goes together. Nobody's happy if he's not respected for his job or what he does. And he will only be respected if he's qualified. So my personal conviction is attitude is everything. Yeah. And over the attitude is really everything. Over the years, I have worked with people who did not come out of the business. I mean, back in the days, there was no access to become an event manager. You know, how would you, there was no educational path to follow that. So that people would learn by fighting their way up, becoming a volunteer first, and then getting it, you know, that was on the job. And the attitude, I think, is the main quality you need to bring. Because if you do not have sleepless nights about what's going to happen tomorrow, or how you're going to solve this problem, which has been unsolved for like over 10 days, which is really important. If you do not have that, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a really, it's your life. You have to be in it, and sometimes you have to get out for a couple of weeks or months to recuperate and be good again. But it's a very taking job.
So accordingly, it is also pretty typical that you find people very strongly engaged in the event business in their field of interest.
Yeah,
like myself. I mean, I wouldn't be doing snowboarding events since 25 years if I didn't love snowboarding, you know.
Same for me.
And same for you. And you see that in different domains. If you look at, quick step aside, if you look at the snowboarding magazines, the few print magazines out there, which still are, that's not an economically successful business. That's only still out there because there are 3-4 guys who do that with huge enthusiasm, do their shooting, write their text. They're not paid accordingly. But because of their passion they put into it, to keep it going, the quality and the credibility is really there. So that appeals also to event marketing. I mean, if you're passionate about what you do, if you look at how the shapers, the shaping crew in Laax, for example, the passion and the knowledge they put into their courses and parks, that's incredible. So quality, and that's their attitude at the end of the day. They love it, they want to do it, they want to get better themselves every time for themselves. And then of course they appreciate if it's well received. But attitude is everything.
Yeah, and this is what we like to say with SMS is that today it's possible to work with your passion for sports, and your everyday life at work will be better working in your passions. What you said before, back in the days, it was no programs to become a specialist in event organization or even in sports. Sports management is something new. And thanks to a school like SMS in Lausanne, we can really now dream about this kind of work. We have talked a little bit of snowboard event. One of your most important events, the one we have worked together on, was the Laax Open. It's more than 25 years. It's almost 30 years, I guess, that you are running this event. It's a snowboard competition, part of the FIS Snowboard World Tour. It was very different this year. Can you tell us a little bit about how you managed to, with the COVID, with everything that is impossible, still make the sport happen and give the rider that needed points a competition?
Yes, because of COVID, basically events were forbidden across the country.
Yeah.
There was an exception stipulated in the regulations that is only sportive activities are allowed. No spectators, no nothing, just the contest. So according to that, running the contest on the hill, we knew is going to be the same. But that part is not going to change. We run a contest and we film it. That's going to be the same as ever. Then, through the fact that we do not have any spectators allowed, the whole organization for side events, parties, VIP lists, giveaways, all that is gone. Actually gives you free capacity because you don't have to organize 2 live concerts. Of course, it breaks your heart, but from a work point of view, something is less.
You concentrate, yeah. Okay,
that gap in energy and time was filled double and 3 times with COVID measures.
Yeah.
Because, and fortunately, as the Laax Open as a FIS World Cup, already like in May, 10 months or 8 months ahead of the event, there were workshops called for by Swisski and FIS, and they presented a concept, a COVID concept, which they had worked out. And every organizer had to take that concept, implement it, and break it down to his individual case at his event. Of course, after arguing, talking about workshopping, what makes sense and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, there was a concept which we got from Fiski, which was covered by all the different authorities, which was safe. Also regulating who you need to talk to in which case, the county medical chief, yeah, and all that. And then you break it down to your event and implement that thing. Basically, it said the different groups of people need to be kept apart. We will have 4 groups of people: red, blue, yellow, green. The red are the athletes and everything and everybody who and their entourage, their coaches, their team, the teams. Let's call them athletes, okay? The red group is the athlete. The blue group is the organization, the volunteers, everybody working out there is the blue group. The yellow group is media.
Yeah.
The green group is VIPs, guests, officials. Quick step back, we had it was not allowed to have any spectators, so we basically cut the green group.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to have VIPs, so what about, so that was like a first adaptation to our event. Then the red group, the athletes, had to be in a bubble. From the moment they set foot into your resort event until they leave, they always move around in a bubble and they are not in contact with anybody else. Now that sounds more complicated than it turned out to be, because we basically defined certain zones, start zone, finish zone, athletes area, etc., and took over the oldest rule in the world coming from surfing, the red flag rule, which everybody understands. There's a red flag out there. If the red flag is up, what does that mean when you come to the beach? Don't go in the water. That's what the red flag means, okay? When the red flag is down, everything's fine, okay? So we adapted that system and had then those zones isolated for athletes when they were in their training and in the contest. Yeah. And when our crews needed to go and work and build up stuff in the morning before the athletes showed up, everybody could go in, do their job, the red flag was down. So that system worked out pretty well. Then we benefited from the fact that the resort Laax had in a first step, long before anybody else, established a COVID competence cooperation with the University of Heidelberg. Okay. And and this is a huge task force team, they're putting a lot of effort into, because the resort is driven. I think they understood that very well in the beginning, that whatever happens this winter or next winter, we cannot be the next Ischgl.
Yes.
That's like the Ischgl situation is like everyone should say, let's not let that happen to us. Yeah. So they were very precautious, and they took measures, and they established a testing system for their, 900 employees on a regular basis. Yeah. Like every company should have done or could have done if the material was available, because the first thing you want to make sure is that your company is not going to, come to stop because half your staff is sick. And that was the county of Grisons did not really appreciate that. They said, no, that's not an approved test, and they had to fight their way through. Meanwhile, the test which was implemented in Laax is now spreading across the county because it's the best and easiest and, most sensible test, which is a spit test. So we tested everybody who was accredited at the event every 3 days. So if you showed up on if you showed up as an athlete, you would first have to come to a container, check in. We would not even let you into our event if you did not present a negative PCR test, which was younger than 72 hours. If you didn't have that, please step over here, sir. We have a doctor who will do that with you. So you have to set up the whole medical part. Okay. Then once he has presented his negative PCR test, he gets it good to go. And with that badge or card, he has access to accreditation. He will not get a badge, he will not get a ticket, he will not get anything else before he has not been at the container, done the questionnaire, and presented a negative PCR test. And from that moment on, throughout the event, he will be in a bubble. He has his own gondola times. They have their own rooms where they eat. Nobody's allowed to go in.
Gondola times. This is one. Okay.
So the system is actually pretty easy and also easy to handle. It is as good as people follow it.
Because it's still their own responsibility to follow and to.
At one point, I don't know if I should mention this here. At one point on the second day of training in slopestyle, I had to stop the whole thing, gather everybody in the finish area, in the start area. I'm sorry, and really be like strict about what do you guys don't understand? Everybody's home, working in small apartments, homeschooling their kids, and we are here out in the sun snowboarding, and you guys can't even manage to get your mask on when you need to. How many times do I have to tell you, I do not want to see anybody in No Name? No Name is not in the bubble. You should stay in your bubble. They don't.
Maybe just for our guests, No Name is a
restaurant which is outside of the red zone, and the plan is, of course, the athlete should stay in the bubble, and some of them don't really care, and we're not going to police them. We're trying to implement the system, and it works as good as everybody follows it. Same as in society. If you go on in a main shopping area downtown, people know the rules, and you always see some who won't follow them, but you do best possible. But we tested everybody all 3 days. People had separate dinners. Prize givings were with distance. Media interviews were with long poles and plexi shields and stuff like that. But then, of course, for example, we tried to compensate the fact that the festival part of the event is kind of no longer there. We're just doing sports. Nobody's up there. So how can we still give the vibe or pass on the vibe? So the effort which we did not have on site for concerts and parties, and we put into social media and trying to make more out of it in the media part, behind the scenes clips, etc. Like the Riders Lounge, for example, was a red zone. Nobody was allowed to go in there, but of course we had cameras. So we played a little bit the voyeuristic way of thinking, behind the scenes thing. We had a little media corner. We would call them in and say, hey, Mark McMorris, we have BBC here who would like to do an interview. Is 3 o'clock okay? And then he would, in his lounge, sit into his media corner. The whole TV camera setup was already there, streamed right into the live stream, while the speaker was maybe in a containment talking to him online, as we are doing now. So we really maxed the technical opportunities which we had through live streaming and clips and cameras. So Laax is really well installed there.
I think what is interesting is that with all these forbidden things that you couldn't do, you created new things and new ways that maybe tomorrow when you will have a normal event again, you can implement also some of them that you would not have thought if COVID was not there. And what I would like to say, and honestly, it's because you are such a good organizer, and Laax is such a well runs resort, that it was possible. It would not be possible in any more chaotic events and so on. And finally, the sport is stronger than everything because the athletes needed to have the points. I think it was only 3 World Cup worldwide. Am I right?
I think hindsight, yes.
Yes.
But at the time, we were the first one and the first and only one so far. And nobody knew, are we going to be the only one? You know, like that scenario was still in people's heads, which is why a lot of them really wanted to compete. And it was, I think, in spite of all the hardship everybody had to go through. I mean, you know, working with the FFP2 mask on hill is not an easy task.
No, I can't imagine.
And contract tracing and the lists have to be precise. So it was a big, big effort, but everybody was happy because it was about finally making something happen.
Yeah.
Riders were happy because, you know, finally there were half-pipe points there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for us as an organizer, I think we can also say sponsors, you know, they have teamed up with an event who has now proven that they deliver.
Yeah.
Even in hard times. So my money's good there. You know, everybody could say, sorry, COVID, can't do it. And then, you know, you always have some sort of a loss. But the fact that we tried everything, and of course, like you're saying, this is only possible in Laax. I mean, they have glass fiber all over the mountain, 5G. I mean, you can do everything online. We are absolutely using that system. In other areas, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, initially, the routine. Like the key 10 people in my team have been working with me, I don't know for how long, some maybe only for 6 years. Those are the rookies, okay? and some for over 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And they have grown with the event. They have grown within the organization. And we all also have grown with the increasing infrastructure they're putting up there. You know, when they built a new pipe a couple of years back, meanwhile, we would be smart enough to say, oh, by the way, when you do the new pipe, can you please make sure you have glass fiber in there so we can hook on TV next time more easier?
Yeah.
So we tried, and that all comes together. So the infrastructure allows that kind of complexity in execution.
Yeah.
Not possible. Not possible everywhere.
I can say from an outside point of view, knowing what it means, what you organize, it's a big congratulations and head off to what you guys did. Maybe now coming back off the mountain, because you have another super good example of how you turned another event totally different because of COVID. It's the Urban Bike Festival. If you can explain a little bit what it was and what it became last year, because it was right at the beginning of COVID, so you had to be creative to make it happen.
Yes, the Urban Bike Festival is a 5-year-old event which we established in Zurich, which basically follows or enhances the concept of the National Bike Festival Bike Days in Soleure, okay, which has been there for many years. While the National Bike Festival in Solothurn is like a more outdoor family, you know, trails and dirt and lycra and sports kind of thing. The Urban Bike Festival is more arty-farty, city bikes. How do you move with a bike in the city? Cargo bikes. The environment is different. And that deserves increasingly a separate platform, which is why it was established in the first place. So, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks before the event was planned, we went into a lockdown. And then, you know, like yourself or like everybody who's in the event business, you start going, what are we going to do now? And then we decided that somehow we need to deliver to our partners, which is the city of Zurich. We had like, I don't know, 60, 70 exhibitors. We have other sponsors. We have sports events like the Urban Cyclocross, which is sponsored by local energy companies, etc. We can't just cut that all off and say, sorry, that's just not our attitude.
Yeah.
That was just like, we would not take no for an answer and say, what can we do for this? And then we decided, let's do a digital version. we went through the whole program and then figured out which elements are actually easy to digitalize or which ones are like kind of cheesy. Okay. Then we realized out there in the digital world, there are already some really cool things established, like e-cycling. So you're sitting at home, you're cycling on these rolls. I don't know how you call them properly. Okay, what they use to warm up or after the race, and you're connected to a system, and you are racing against other people who are also against the system while you are going through the Rocky Mountains. Okay, digital thing that's really well established. I was surprised to see how well established that was. So there were some chances. So we approached a company who was also basically locked down and had nothing to do, and rented their storage area. You know, their storage area, normally there's also stuff going, furniture stuff, it's going in and out, but now that area was dead. So that became our studio. At the same time, we had a storage in our back, which were everything which we would need, sofas or whatever was there. Okay. And then started to digitalize every program part, and then stream them in 2 4-hour live shows on Saturday and Sunday. So on Saturday there was from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. There was a 4-hour live stream, and on Sunday, I'm sorry, it was later. But 8 hours of full live streaming with a full TV setup, actually producing TV. As we know it from the events we talked about earlier. And also coming back to what I said before, of course, the TV director who was directing our 4-hour live streams was the same guy who does my Laax Open, because we know each other, we know how this has to come across. It's the routine element which we can benefit from, while we need to concentrate on getting this done in 6 weeks. So some parts were like really fun to put into a digital version, and some were like standard. You know, we had, like I said, we had 60 brands who had booked stands and wanted to present their new products. We can present new products on the internet. That's not a problem. But it becomes a little bit like teleshopping, not very dynamic. So let's make sure we don't do that for an hour. But in between, show once in a while cool products in connection with the theme you are covering. Then the urban cyclocross is something we ran through the city. There were no spectators, and we had cameras. And with the technology of today, I mean, we even had a live link with Danny McAskill, which is like the top-notch, BMX rider. Scotland. He is normally at our events and does shows. He couldn't come, so we did a live link to Scotland over our cell phones, and that went live, and it worked perfectly. On the other side, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, we are so well set up meanwhile in Switzerland that we do live links to Scotland over our cell phones, and the quality on the live stream is okay. People accept it if it's not for hours. When you come back to the studio, you have better quality, but it's live. Okay. Then we established a protection concept and had to make sure through the Office of Immigration that we can get certain people into the country and have a so-called suspension from quarantine. We wanted to have a top Austrian rider, and we took contact with the immigration authorities and worked our way through this to make sure he could come as an individual, and then we had him in the studio. The e-cycling, for example, we had a European champion in the studio, a free skier, and Fabio Cancellara, the bike legend, and then you could sign into the e-cycling and cycle against Cancellara. So there was a lot of fun ways to do this, and at the end of the day, we had over 40,000 live spectators. Normally only 20,000 come to the event, and we had 1.5 million views. We benefited from the fact that we were the first, or let's say at least among the very first to do this in the first place. and that we have an interesting topic which was okay to transport in a digital form.
And for the brands that were presented, for the outcome in sales and stuff, well, I guess with the COVID, everybody wanted back. Anyway,
that's hard. That's hard to say. Of course, we tell everybody they're sold out because of our Urban Bike Digital. No, I mean, what was important, again, like I was saying, it was important to us that our sponsors, we have a long year deal with the city of Zurich. We were negotiating with bigger partners to secure the event for the future. It was important to deliver something in high quality, and everybody was happy. So they were surprised first that we were able to pull this through, and also surprised about the outcome, which was, of course, and like I said before, more a consequence of the fact that we were the first or among the first. Yeah. To do that now, we would not have 1.5 million views probably, and what the consequence also was is that when we go back to normal events, hopefully soon, feet on the ground and not just eyes in front of screens, we know that the eyes in front of screens element will stay. I mean, in this case, it was replacing an on-site event, but in the future, let's call them hybrid. There's always going to have to be a digital element which communicates the event, which is happening on ground somewhere, to all those who can't make it.
Yes.
It can even enhance it. So from now on, that is, of course, a fixed element which we'll also have to include for the future. Actually, as we did at the Laax Open, the same thing with the Urban Bike Digital. The digital was not only a replacement, it will also be here to stay for the future in a certain manner.
Finally, we can summarize that even if it was super difficult to find a solution, it brings something new to your type of event, at least, and it will make them.
And we need to see which parts of this newness is worth keeping, which parts are worth keeping but need major improvement, and which parts are not really worth keeping.
It's also what we try to bring is a mindset to our students that they are ready for change and ready for innovation and think about the new ways to do it tomorrow. Rapidly, Donald, what are your next project? What are your next event towards next month?
I mean, I just came back from the Red Bull Super Ski Cross in Andermatt, which closed this weekend, where I was basically only supporting them on the COVID front. Now we are preparing our next bigger one, which is the Cycle Week, the combination of Urban Bike Festival and Bike Days, as I mentioned. And it is, of course, totally new. I mean, the crew is there, and the crew is there. We have new locations, we have new situations. We're spread out in different parts. It's not very compact for organization. That makes it more complex. But this could not be done without, like I was saying, the dirty dozen who knows how to run it. So this is our next one. Then we also are involved with the Volvo Art Session, which is planned for October, which is in the works. And then we have smaller electric car Polestar events, which we stage. That's becoming very digital more and more and more. So we are organizing events for Polestar and nobody shows up other than the client. Everything is digital. So there's a learning process there too. And then, I mean, you know, after the game is before the game. Laax Open 2022 is already going to be launched with programming and first talks anytime soon. So it's a year-round business overall, 4 or 5 events.
But I guess for our guests today, it will be interesting to look at what you're doing in August with your biking event. So we will keep them posted. And anyway, we will continue sharing because you are involved in a pedagogical group. It's always a difficult word to say in English, honestly. But thank you for your time. I was really happy to have this conversation with you, and I'm sure it's very interesting for our guests. So thanks a lot, and
my pleasure.
Hope you have a good
We'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.